Hello, welcome back to another breaking news update. My name is Jimmy Boyd, and you were watching Boyd News. I want to thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm back with another update coming out from the war between Russia and Ukraine, and I have a ton of huge news that I'd like to share with all of you today. So, we're going to start off talking about the North Korean soldiers in the Kursk region fighting against Ukraine. As just today, South Korea's National Intelligence Service, also known as the NIS, has reported that North Korea has allegedly deployed additional reinforcements to Russia's Kursk region. Okay, this is something we've been hearing about for over a month now, that North Korea was preparing to deploy more troops to the Kursk region. So you can see here on your screen, North Korea, or the DPRK, had dispatched additional specialist troops to support its operational deployment in Russia's Kursk region. Okay, so we have been hearing recently over the last month or so that the North Koreans were pretty much halted in terms of their advances inside the Kursk region. Many of them being wiped out, at least a third or more of them Ukraine has already taken out. There was one point where the Russians reportedly had pulled them off the front lines for a few weeks, probably about 2 weeks or so, and then they came back somewhere around beginning or mid February. So this month, and now we're hearing that more North Korean soldiers are showing up, but they're stating that these are specialist soldiers. So we'll talk more about that and about how many are going to be showing up in the Kursk region. Also, today reports that a second round of U.S. and Russian talks have taken place today in Turkey, and we'll go over that. So not too much information coming out from the meeting just yet, but this is the second time that U.S. delegation and Russian delegation have met. We just had like a week or two ago, they met in Riyadh in Saudi Arabia. Now they've met in Istanbul, Turkey today, okay? And then also, I have a few updates for you guys coming out from yesterday, as I reported that we had drones attacking the port of Tuapse in Russia, down near the Black Sea in the Krasnodar Krai region. We have some updates on some things that were hit down there from Ukrainian drones, and also reports coming out from Crimea today of what was hit down there, because we know Crimea and Tuapse were heavily attacked last night by Ukrainian drones. So we're going to go ahead and hop into all the news here, and I'll start sharing all these details with you guys. Let's jump on over to a mainstream news reports here from the Kiev Post. Specialist North Korean reinforcements sent to Kursk. South Korea's intelligence agency has said Pyongyang has sent more than 1,000 expert technical troops to support the infantry forces it originally deployed to Russia last year. This is coming out today, February 27, 2025. Here's a photo of Kim Jong-un and some officers from the North Korean military and some other soldiers here, okay, in Pyongyang. Now it says South Korea's Yonhap news agency, citing Seoul's National Intelligence Service (NIS), said that the North Korea DPRK had dispatched additional specialist troops to support its operational deployment in Russia's Kursk region. The agency said it was still assessing the total numbers of additional forces, while the South Korean Junong publication says at least 1,000, as many as 3,000, troops had been sent. Okay, so we're looking at anywhere right now between 1 and 3,000. That number will probably grow over the coming weeks. North Korea's forces were initially drawn from its 11th Army Storm Corps, widely known as the Storm Corps, which lost almost a third of the 12,000 strong force and was withdrawn from combat in late January. Okay, this is what we talked about. Late January, they were pulled away. About a week or two later, the North Koreans showed back up on the front line in the Kursk region. So it says its tactics relied on company-sized attacks consisting of 100 to 200 dismounted troops, and the belief it could overwhelm Ukrainian defensive positions by sheer force of numbers. This ill-conceived tactic left its forces vulnerable to both artillery cluster munition and kamikaze drone attacks. Yeah, we heard about that huge amounts of North Korean soldiers were just being wiped out because they were attacking in waves of like 50 to 70 people at a time. And Ukraine would basically just mow them down, is what was being reported. The NIS reported last week that after almost a month of calm, North Korean troops were again deployed in the frontline areas of Kursk from the first week of February. Ukraine's Center for Defense Strategies, CDS, cited by Forbes on February 21st, said that after having been withdrawn from the front line after taking a huge number of casualties, Pyongyang's troops had returned to the Kursk battlefield, employing new infantry assault tactics based on platoon-sized groups supported by North Korean Bullseye 4 wheeled missile launchers. Finally, it says here, latest batch of DPRK troops are said to consist of specialized motorized infantry sapper, and electronic intelligence gathering forces to supplement its already deployed dismounted infantry units that locked the technical support needed to fight on the 21st century battlefield. According to open source intelligence reports, including satellite imagery, the new troops were moved by cargo ship to Russia from North Korean ports at the beginning of February, before being flown by military aircraft to the Kursk region. Okay, so something to note here is the fact that these are specialist troops coming in. Something that we know from the Ukrainian side is they're heavily controlling the battlefield right now with drones. So I wonder if that's why we're not seeing assault troops really being sent to the Kursk region, is because maybe they realize that a lot of them just got wiped out and they were basically useless. Okay, so they're probably trying to figure out more ways to combat Ukraine, as we know Ukraine is heavily using drones right now, especially FPV drones, to control the battlefield. Okay, so I thought that was interesting today. So let's go ahead and hop on over to X now, and I've got some information for you guys over here as well. So from Max 24, the second round of U.S. Russian talks in Turkey has ended. It lasted 6.5 hours, according to Russian media. The Russian delegation left the place of negotiations without comment. Okay, so not too much information coming out today on these talks. We'll probably hear some news here in the next day or so, in terms of what Russia and the U.S. were talking about, but they were definitely talking for a long time, 6.5 hours. I think the last meeting was somewhere between 3.5 and 4 hours. Okay. So now from Anton Gerashenko, as a result of yesterday's drone attack on Russian Tuapse, 2 vessels were damaged. Astra Telegram channel reported the hull of the diving boat Vodolaz 31, which belongs to the Morspas Luzba, if I'm saying that right, Marine Rescue Service, was damaged by shrapnel. Water had to be pumped out. Okay, so it looks like a rescue service boat was damaged. Shrapnel damaged the superstructure, bridge, wing, and portholes of the bulk carrier Momtaz Bay, which sails under the flag of Panama. The vessel was loading coal with 25,000 tons of cargo on board. There were no casualties. Okay, so yesterday in the port of Tuapse, we reported that the port was being attacked. Reportedly, there was something like 40 explosions in the area. So it looks like the port itself was directly attacked, considering that ships were being damaged. And then also we reported yesterday there was damage to the refinery there as well, which is a Rosneft refinery. And I believe there was a pumping unit that was destroyed, or an oil processing unit, excuse me, and also a pipeline was damaged as well. Okay, so some information on some damage being reported at Tuapse yesterday. And also from Astra, air defense radar station damaged in occupied Crimea following UAV attacks, says Astra sources. And as Astra found out on February 26, a drone struck the area of a mobile unit of the Russian Armed Forces 31st Air Defense Division near the village of Olenevka in the Tarkon Kut Cape area. Mobile radar station was damaged in the attack. No casualties were reported. Okay, so it looks like a mobile radar station being damaged last night inside of Crimea. This would be in the village of Olenevka. Okay, so we know down here near Sevastopol and then also Yevpatoria up here, these areas down here were being heavily attacked last night. We had 2 airfields, the Kacha airfield and the Saki airfield, that were both targeted last night, or yesterday night, from drones. And we heard there was explosions going on down there. Not too many reports of how much damage on the airfields down here, but looks like we did have a radar station that was attacked and damaged in the village of Olenevka. Okay. So now moving on to Bliskovka, Defense Forces hit UAV control center of the 503rd Motorized Rifle Regiment of the Russian Federation in Nestoryanka, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, Zaporizhia, according to Ukrainian Armed Forces General Staff. Okay, so that was this report right here today. It is in Ukrainian, not in English, obviously, but this was being reported today, so I don't know if this has something to do with the attack that took place last night on Crimea and Krasnodar, because the drones technically would have been flying this direction in Zaporizhia as these other attacks were ongoing. But it looks like this probably took place over the last 24 hours. Okay, so even a UAV control center being hit, which is pretty big because lately we've been having a lot of drones coming from Russia into Ukraine. Okay, there's been anywhere from 150 to 200, sometimes more every single day. All right, now from Cloud. The Russian government imposes a ban on gasoline exports from March 1st to August 31st. The decision was made to maintain a stable situation in the domestic fuel market, maintain the oil refining economy, counteract the gray export of motor gasoline. Sanctions are working. The video shows the result of the attack on the oil refinery in Kostovo, Nizhny Novgorod region. Okay, we covered this. This is one of the oil refineries in the Nizhny Novgorod region that was attacked in Gustovo. And we've been reporting lots of oil refineries being hit lately, right? It's been almost every week, at least 1 to 3 oil refineries being struck inside of Russia. And now the Russian government imposing a ban on gasoline exports from March 1st to August 31st. That is huge, guys. Pretty much the entire year banning gasoline exports. Okay, so major shortage of oil and gas in their country now, as a lot of their oil refineries have been hit. And that's why he says here sanctions are working. Okay, and he's talking about the drone sanctions. Ukraine makes jokes about their drones being used to target all these oil refineries and saying, hey, we're sanctioning Russia and not allowing them to produce any oil or gas in their country by striking their refineries and their oil depots. So they call them sanctions. Okay, so very big news. I believe January to February, there was also a ban on gasoline exports. It looks like it's pretty much just being extended all the way through August. Okay, so crazy news coming out from Russia. Now from Bliskovka, Russia strikes on Kostiantynivka, kill 1 person, wounded 4 others, Interior Ministry reports. I mean, guys, I don't know what is going on in Kostiantynivka, but they are just getting hammered right now. This is inside of Ukraine in the Donetsk region, and I want to say maybe 6 times already, just over the last week, week and a half, we've reported of heavy strikes in this area, drone attacks, guided aerial bombs, glide bombs just being dropped all over the city. I can't imagine living there right now. It seems kind of like Odessa. It's almost every week we report Odessa being hit, or maybe the Sumy region. But Kostiantynivka is just being heavily hammered right now. And I've been trying to figure out why that is. But we know that it is very close to the front line of where Russia and Ukraine are currently battling it out right now. So maybe a lot of Ukrainian presence, military presence, is here in this town, and maybe that's why it's being hit so much. But we've been seeing lots of civilian infrastructure being hit here. You can see people's homes being damaged. Okay, so very unfortunate. 1 person again being killed and 4 others wounded. So that's been reported a lot recently. Ukrainian Review now reports, according to Zelenskyy, microchips, microcontrollers, processors, and many different parts are supplied from China, Europe, and U.S. to Russia. Shaheeds and missiles contain components from other countries. Sanctions must be effective. Okay, so Zelenskyy was coming out talking about this today, and this is already something we know about. We know that Russia gets a lot of their components to build their drones, their missiles, whatever they use to attack Ukraine with. They're getting them from the West. They're getting them from China. They're getting them from other partners that they shouldn't be getting them from, okay? And clearly the sanctions are not enough, as Russia's still able to obtain these parts that they need to produce drones like you see here. I think this is a Shahed drone right here. So pretty crazy information. They're still getting what they need. Now from Bliskovka again, Vladimir Zelenskyy arrived in Ireland. He was met by Prime Minister Michael Martin. Okay, so today, just wanted to give you an update here. Vladimir Zelensky's in Ireland to meet with the Prime Minister. And tomorrow, as far as I know, it could be canceled last minute, but from what we understand, Zelenskyy should be in Washington, D.C. tomorrow to meet with Donald Trump and to potentially sign the rare earth minerals deal that they've been working on, the U.S. and Ukraine's been working on for the past couple weeks. Okay, so we should be expecting that tomorrow, but Zelensky's been coming out a lot over the last 48 hours and claiming that this deal, whatever they sign, it better include security guarantees for Ukraine from the United States, or they're not going to sign it. That's something that they've been very serious about from the very beginning. So we'll see if they happen to sign it tomorrow. It looks like they're going to, if he's going to be heading to the U.S. So now from Bliskovka again, the armed forces regrouped and slowed down the enemy's advance in most of the threatening areas. This was announced by the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, Oleksandr Syrsky. We are talking in particular about the Novopavlivsky direction in the Donetsk region. Okay, so Donetsk region, Russia's getting stopped hard. Okay, and this is something that's been reported a lot recently as well, all across the front line in the Kursk region, in the Kharkiv region, Donetsk region especially. That's where the Russians are heavily focused right now, especially around Pokrovsk. And they're being stopped, okay? The Russians are not advancing barely anywhere right now. We have not reported that for several weeks now. In terms of Russian advancements, they're not really taking over any new towns or nothing. So Ukraine is heavily controlling the battlefield right now, and Russia is not budging barely an inch right now from what's been reported. Now, from Anton Gerashenko, Putin said today that some Western elites want to disrupt the dialogue between Russia and the United States. We need to take this into account and use all possibilities of diplomacy and special services to disrupt such attempts, he said. I thought this was interesting, and some people might say, well, anytime the Russians come out and say this, that's usually something that they're planning to do. So, is the Russians planning to bomb the dialogue between Russia and the United States, and maybe things are not going to work out no more, and now Russia and the U.S. are going to become enemies? I think that's highly unlikely, considering the fact that Trump is very positive towards Putin. Okay, he speaks highly of him. He states that he has a good relationship with Putin. So I don't see relations between the U.S. and Russia deteriorating anytime soon. Maybe not until the next administration, depending on what happens there. But yeah, it was a big statement coming out from Putin today, which I thought was interesting. And who could possibly be trying to sabotage relations between Russia and the U.S.? Could it be somebody from Europe, maybe? We know that Europe is very upset by this right now as well, or maybe Ukraine, maybe somebody out of Ukraine, who knows? But it was something that Putin stated today. So take a look at this.
Понимаем, что не всех устраивает возобновление российско-американских контактов. Часть западных элит по-прежнему настроена на сохранение нестабильности в мире. И эти силы будут пытаться сорвать или скомпрометировать начавшийся диалог. Мы это с вами видим. Нам нужно это учитывать и использовать все возможности дипломатии и специальных служб для срыва подобных попыток. Понимаем, что
Okay, just a quick statement coming out from Putin here. And yeah, so he's stating that Western elites are not happy with the fact that they're basically butting up right now and holding dialogue. And we know that, like I told you guys 2 times already over the past couple weeks, the U.S. and Russia have met for talks on Ukraine. And we know that the U.S. is moving towards better relations with Russia right now. Maybe the West doesn't want that. So is somebody trying to sabotage these talks here in the dialogue between U.S. and also Russia? Who really knows? But yeah, that's something that Putin came out stating today, okay? Now from Max 24, Turkey is ready to send a peacekeeping contingent to Ukraine. According to Bloomberg, Erdogan discussed this topic with Zelenskyy and Lavrov in 2 different meetings, okay? This is very big news today. Turkey preparing to send peacekeeping forces to Ukraine in the event that we get a ceasefire deal. So that's very big. We know that Turkey is 100% pro-Ukraine right now, and I'm sure Zelensky's very happy about that. He has a good relationship with Turkey's Erdogan here. So, yeah, so, very big possibility we could see Turkey getting involved, and we know the UK also wants to send troops to Ukraine, potentially maybe even France. I'm not sure if Germany or maybe some of the Baltic nations would get involved. Still lots of talk about that right now, but Turkey announcing today, allegedly from Bloomberg, that they may send their own peacekeeping forces to Ukraine. Now for Bliskovka, again, Trump wanted to cancel Zelensky's visit to the U.S., but Macron talked him out of it, according to BFM TV. Okay, so I thought this was interesting as well, that Trump may have tried to cancel Zelensky's visit to the U.S. to sign this minerals deal agreement, okay? And it looks like Macron had come out and convinced him to do otherwise, okay, to allow Zelenskyy to show up. So I'm not sure why that would have been. Maybe some sort of disagreement between the minerals deal or something is what I'm thinking, but we know that security guarantees is a big part of it for Ukraine. And if the U.S. does not give security guarantees for Ukraine in terms of this deal, that he already said he's not going to sign it, okay? So I am hearing some rumors recently that the U.S. was not going to include any security guarantees, so I'm sure that's going to be a major hurdle, but we don't know the actual, the results of whether this is going to be signed or not. I guess we'll find out sometime tomorrow if Zelenskyy ends up showing up in the U.S., but supposedly he's supposed to. Now for Max 24, gas station burns and explodes in Kurchatov, Kursk region. Okay, so in the Kursk region right now, in the city of Kurchatov, where the nuclear power plant is located over there, that there was a lot of talk months back that Ukraine might try to push forward and seize that nuclear power plant. Well, in the city of Kurchatov, we have an exploding gas station over here. Not sure how this happened, but not too far away, maybe 50 to 100 kilometers away or less, we have a major battle zone going on. So maybe some projectile happened to land over here in Kurchatov and caught this gas station on fire. Take a look.
Заправка тоже горит. Ух, нихуя себе! Ебать, что там лежит нахуй? Ебать! Заправка тоже горит.
All right, so we got a local resident here inside of the city of Kurchatov in the Kursk region driving by and seeing this gas station on fire. We don't really know what caused the fire there, but it looks like something caused it to completely explode. Maybe it was attacked by Ukraine, who knows. All right, now check this out for PS01. Numerous gifts await the Russians. So I thought this was a pretty crazy video. This looks like some sort of explosives that are being created. And if you notice on the inside, what the Ukrainians might be putting in here is chainsaw chains. Okay, so it looks like they're cutting up chains from a chainsaw and they're putting them inside of these explosives. So whenever it blows up, it's going to launch these chains everywhere, or these pieces of these chains. And imagine the amount of damage that could cause. Pretty insane video coming out today, allegedly from Ukraine. Okay. Now, from NOAA reports, Ukraine is jamming Russian glide bombs across the front. Russian KABs, which are guided aerial bombs, and UMPKs rely on GLONASS, Russia's GPS equivalent, and require a stable satellite signal for accurate strikes. However, Ukrainian electronic warfare systems are disrupting these signals, causing the bombs to go off course and detonate in fields. This effectively neutralizes one of Russia's key battlefield advantages. Okay, so Forbes was reporting this today. Ukraine is jamming Russian glide bombs all along the front line, erasing one of Russia's main battlefield advantages. Now takes up to 16 glide bombs to hit one target. Isn't that crazy? I mean, if that's true, Forbes has come out before. They've put out some crazy information, and then all of a sudden they'll pull it and say that it wasn't true. But if this happens to be the case, 16 glide bombs, to hit one target, that's a lot of wasted bombs here, okay? And something that I do want to note is Astra, which is a major telegram outlet out of Russia, has been reporting a lot recently that many of these bombs drop early, as these glide bombs are supposed to be striking inside of Ukraine, but many times they hit areas of Russia like Belgorod. And could that be maybe a reason why? Maybe these are being jammed super early, and maybe these bombs don't even make it into Ukraine, so they end up falling in like the Belgorod region. Very big possibility, but I just wanted to connect those two stories together, as maybe if this happens to be true, that Ukraine is somehow jamming the signals on these bombs and making them drop much earlier and just landing in open fields. That's huge, okay? Because these glide bombs were just devastating the front lines for Ukraine. And these glide bombs are very cheap, and the Russians are mass producing them like crazy right now, and very devastating bombs as well. Okay, so they're very hard to shoot down also. Now, for military news, UA, Latvia has sent the first 500 drones out of 12,000 promised to Ukraine. These drones are Latvian made. Okay, so we reported this. I want to say within the last month or so that Latvia was planning to send up to 12,000 drones to Ukraine. And looks like they have their first batch of 500 that has been sent to Ukraine. And here's a photo of this shipment right here. Okay, so pretty cool. Now, from the new voice of Ukraine, Russia's military has suffered such massive losses that any other country would need a break from the war by now, says former CIA Director David Petraeus. Okay, so this was a new report coming out today from the former CIA Director, I believe from the United States here. And reportedly, the Russians are suffering such massive losses they need a break from the war, is what he stated. So do you guys believe that? We know right now that the Russians aren't really advancing. So think about this. Every minute that the Russians are not advancing and taking over Ukraine, they're incurring massive losses. They have to be. Because if they're constantly attacking and they're not really taking any ground inside of Ukraine, that to me makes sense that the Russians should be taking on massive amounts of losses within their troops, okay, their troop numbers. So but something we have been reporting recently is the number of casualties has been falling. So it also could mean that Russia's just not attacking as much. Maybe they don't have the correct weaponry they need to attack, or maybe the right amount of vehicles. We know they could be short on tanks or maybe armored vehicles as well. We show lots of videos of the Russians using donkeys, horses, makeshift vehicles, makeshift cars, whatever they can use to get to the front line. And imagine if they don't have armor to attack with, that leaves them susceptible to FPV drone attacks as well. So lots of different explanations on why Russia would not be moving on the front line, but reportedly, looks like they may be needing a break, according to the former CIA director. Now, from Anton Gerashenko, Finland will supply Ukraine with 660 million euros in new arms production, the country's Ministry of Defense announced. Thank you, Finland. This is exactly what Ukraine needs right now, and what will boost our defense capabilities. It is launching a new support program for Ukraine, which aims to strengthen cooperation with its own defense industry by ordering new defense equipment for Ukraine from Finnish defense companies. The program has been prepared under the defense ministry leadership since last autumn. So far, we have mainly supported Ukraine mainly through stock transfers, but in the future, we will order a significant amount of products from our domestic companies. With these solutions, we will strengthen Ukraine's chances for fair peace conditions, as well as Finland's security business and security of supply for a long time to come. Antti Hakanen, if I'm pronouncing that right, I'm probably butchering that. My apologies. The Minister of Defense said, okay, so very big, okay, another major supply of weaponry coming from Finland over to Ukraine. We know the Finns are very supportive of the Ukrainians. Okay, so huge report today. Now, from Max 24, Russia spends almost $1 billion per day of the war in Ukraine, says Kirill Budnov. Okay, he's the head of the HUR, their intelligence directorate. Okay, he noted that 41% of the aggressor's country's budget goes to defense. At the same time, he added that in order to implement this budget, Russia has curtailed almost all social programs. Okay, so imagine the amount of economic impact on Russia right now as they're utilizing so much resources for this war, whether it's economy, whether it's weaponry, whatever it might be. And, imagine that $1 billion per day being spent on the war in Ukraine, all at the same time, at least at the moment, the Russians are not really advancing. So they're losing a ton of money right now. But there's a lot of talk about the fact that, Russia's gained control over many of these territories inside of Ukraine that, has a lot of their mines and their rare earth minerals. That's going to make up for a lot of the losses that Russia's taken throughout this war. So who knows? Maybe at the end of this war, they might come out on top. But at least in the meantime, until they gather up all those minerals on the east side of Ukraine that they currently control, they're losing a lot of money right now, okay? And not only that, but a lot of troops, okay? So let's move on to another update now from Max 24. Ukrainian air defense shot down 90 out of 166 Russian UAVs and 72 drones suppressed by electronic warfare. Okay, so once again, guys, over 150 drones going into Ukraine last night. Didn't hear of any too much crazy attacks happening or lots of damage on residential homes like we've been reporting recently, but nonetheless, still a lot of drones going into Ukraine last night. Finally, guys, one last update for you from the Kyiv Independent. These are the indicative estimates of Russia's combat losses as of February 27th, according to the Armed Forces of Ukraine. Final update of the day, Russia's losses as of February 27th, 1,150 troops, 13 AFVs, 140 vehicles and fuel tanks, 8 tanks, 69 artillery systems, 141 UAVs, 1 anti-aircraft warfare system, and 1 special equipment. Okay, so like I talked about earlier, okay, the troop numbers still very low. Okay, there was a point where we were pushing 1,800, 2,000 troops a day. And recently, over the last maybe 3 to 4 weeks, we've been seeing right around 12 to 1,300 at the most, but many times right around 1,100 like today. So not too many attacks is being reported on the Russian side, and this explains why also they're not really getting anywhere right now, okay? If they're not launching as many attacks, then they're not really going to take a lot of land inside of Ukraine. So lots of vehicles and fuel tanks destroyed today, only 8 tanks today. Usually we've been seeing upwards of 12 to 15. And it looks like 69 artillery systems here. Lots of these drones being shot down last night as well. Okay, guys? So huge updates today. And I want to thank you so much for tuning in on today's date, February 27, 2025, on this beautiful Thursday. So I hope you guys all enjoy the rest of your day. And I want to thank you very much for tuning in. If you got something out of this update, please smash that like button. Also, if you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing down below. Hit the notification bell. That way YouTube can notify you. And with that, hope you all have a great day. Everybody take care and God bless. And we'll see you in the next one.